ready. I think we'll all be ready to take a whole bunch of notes from Miss Penny. So just introduce Penny. Penny is a financial coach who is completely debt-free, including her personal home.
Woohoo! Yeah, awesome.
Need a moment right there, right? She's passionate about helping others take control of their money to reach their personal financial goals. And with a background in social work, she provides compassionate education and accountability to help you learn the skills you need to become intentional and educated about your own money. She's been married 26 years. She has 2 young adults who will graduate debt-free from college. Here's
That's
another
awesome.
moment. 2 dogs who have taken their, and she has 2 dogs who have taken their place in her nest. So
awesome.
Let's give a warm welcome to Miss Penny.
Perfect.
All right, need anything? You good?
All right, I'm good.
All right.
See if my So thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to get to be here to talk to you today. And I know money can be kind of an emotional trigger for some people, so take care of yourself in that process. I'll hopefully not push too hard on things. And I so appreciate the feedback that you shared on the budget stuff. So I'm sure I'm going to be using that in my future. So a little bit of my story is that I actually was a social worker for 27 years in child protection. I'm not a financial nerd. Sometimes I feel like I had to learn it the hard way, but my story got started with my own finances when one of my girlfriends at work came to me and said, "Hey, will you come help me with my money? Because we're always living paycheck to paycheck and we never seem to have enough." And I was not sure why she asked me, other than I had everything in Quicken and it was very balanced, and that's all I did. So I said, "All right, I'll come sit with you at your kitchen table and we'll figure that out." So she and I started kind of talking about money and bills and what do you pay for this, what do you pay for that, and mostly the answers were, "I don't know." And so I said, "Well, let's be accountability buddies. We can do this better, and I'd like to get my stuff cleaned up too." And so we started on a journey together to try to figure out how to handle our money and be better with that, because she had about $40,000 worth of consumer debt, and I was feeling a little self-righteous when I drove home. And then I started thinking, well, I wonder how much I have, because I didn't really know. I just knew it was in Quicken and it was all organized, but I never really looked at it or felt it. So by the time I looked at it, I realized we had about $28,000 plus our house. I'm like, all right, well, we're not really any better than she is. So how do we do this together and hold each other's hands? We started working together for 2 months, and unfortunately my friend was hit and killed by a drunk driver. And so it lit a fire underneath my butt to say, okay, well, you never know what life is giving you. Some of you talked about planning for family emergencies. Her husband was in the car and he suffered a traumatic brain injury, was in coma. It was the epitome of everything that could go wrong to go wrong. So I went home to my husband and said, we have to get our act cleaned up, because that could be us tomorrow, right? So it was a slow start for us. We were not very quick about it. I like to throw my husband under the bus a little bit and tell people that he wasn't convinced that we would ever be out of debt. We were like everybody else we knew, right? You have debt, you have a car payment, you have a mortgage, whatever. That's normal in our society. And I decided I didn't want to be normal anymore. And I was not very quick to learn it. I tell people all the time I was a little bit more like the tortoise in the tortoise and the hare, but I still crossed the finish line. So we're going to talk about some tips. I'm going to try to go fast because I know I can talk about this all day. I want you to know that you have access, and I put it on your little flyer. If you'll go to that page, you can download, you'll be asked to enter your email. I'll send you the notes if you want the PowerPoint presentation, so you don't have to take copious notes, but jot notes for yourself, whatever you want today. First of all, you have to start with what your why is. Here's mine. And I am so blessed to have 2 really awesome young adults. My daughter graduated last year from Metro State, and as Jill said, debt-free. And so now she's following her journey to be living in New York City in theater and working in wigs and makeup and costumes in New York, which she could not have done had she gone to NYU like she wanted to go, because she would have been saddled with the student loans, right? So my son's a junior this year at UCCS down in Colorado Springs studying business, and he's a real outdoorsman. My husband works for Medical Center of the Rockies, which is part of the UC Health chain, and he's a respiratory therapist by trade and is in management now. So I think you have to know a little bit about where you're going, or you won't know when you get there. So you need to think a little bit, where do I want to go? What's important to me? What are my dreams and goals and values? And if you don't spend a little time figuring that part out, you won't ever get there. Like I said, I wanted to be weird and to go against the norm and to say, just because everybody I know has this kind of debt doesn't mean I have to be that way. So in order to change your family tree, you have to be a little bit weird. So it's very much like our journey, you know, the topic of this is, what do you do when the path changes and when things throw curveballs at you? Well, you need to follow your map, turn by turn. What do you gotta do? You need to realize that your income is your biggest wealth building tool. If you're not keeping your income, you're spending every dime of it, you're never gonna get ahead, right? So it's not so much about what kind of fancy investment you do, what rate of return, what product you use. It's about having some money to do that with. And of course, all those things add to it, but if you don't have any money to invest, it doesn't matter what it's making, right? This is my favorite phrase, to tell your money where to go instead of wonder where it went. And this is having a plan. This is what a budget is. A budget's not some kind of arbitrary, you know, rule setting, like a diet, like you people that are in the health industry. It's not about the diet, it's about the plan. And this is very much what a budget is. So since we're business owners, 99% of us in here, if not all of us, it's really important to start, you're the employee and the employer, and it's hard to be on both sides of the fence and to know what you can pay yourself and, you know, arguing with your boss, right? This is a great book that I highly recommend called Profit First. It really changed my business. And Felicia Jones is the one who told me about this on the same day. Tish Times from Phoenix told me about it. I figured that was a sign from God. If two people told me on the same day about a book, I better read it. And it has, the first time through was a little confusing for me, like, well, why would you do this? Because he talks very specifically about a process that I thought, I can do that in a spreadsheet. But really what it resonated with me the second time I listened to it was that it's about behavior, very much like what I teach people on their personal side. So I'm going to teach you just a small bit about that on your business side, but I would highly recommend you get that, and if you have questions, holler at me or anybody else that might be using this process. So our traditional accounting thing says, take your revenue minus your expenses, and that equals your profit. Mike Michalowicz turns it upside down and says your revenue minus your profit equals your expenses. You need to be profitable today. You need to have some money in your business, and you need to quit just keep funneling money back in the business, which is what I did for 2 or 3 years, right? And I wasn't getting paid. It was like an expensive hobby. And so Felicia, God bless her, said to me several years ago, if you're not paying yourself something, Penny, you're doing a hobby. You are not in business. So I don't care if you pay yourself $100 a month, pay yourself something and treat it as a business. So I did, and you set some money aside for profit as well as your salary. Then you go, do I have money in my budget for X? Instead of buying everything, doing every personal growth, every trip, whatever, sometimes you have to say, no, I can't afford that right now, but I'm getting a paycheck. Okay? It's kind of the same model as having small plates. You're divvying up your money and saying, how much goes here, how much goes here, how much goes there. So Mike talks about creating multiple bank accounts, and these are the ones that I'm just going to whip through these. So again, get the notes so you guys can look at them again, but have an operating expense for your checking, you know, your basic expenses. A salary account, what are you going to pay yourself, and what percentage is each one of these things going to get? So of each dollar that you make, divvy it up by those things. Your profit account, you might start with 1%. I started with 5%. I figured if I couldn't live on 95% of every dollar, and what's awesome about the profit account is it comes back to me quarterly. I get a bonus every quarter, and sometimes it's really tiny, but it's a win. You know, it might be dinner, and you're supposed to do something fun with that, not throw it back in the business. Have a tax account. This was killing. You know, it's I can't believe how your perspective on taxes changes when you're the business owner. You're like, oh, writing that check. I'm sending one this quarter, right? So it takes your breath away sometimes. So then he says, create 2 more accounts in a different bank that's harder to get to, that you can't just, you know, use a debit card or transfer it back, you physically have to go in there and you have to think really hard about borrowing from your taxes and borrowing from your profit account. Because it shouldn't be just kind of a back and forth kind of thing. You want that to be tough to get to because you need to pay your taxes. The government's the one place you're not going to be able to kind of mess with them, right? So these things, and whether you do all of them or just some of them, I really believe in starting some. So it's super important to make sure that your business has its own account, right? So we'll talk about that again too. So our first stop is to create what's called a zero-based budget. And when I talk about zero-based budgeting, I don't mean spend every dollar, I mean tell it where it's gonna go. Sometimes it's going for savings, sometimes it's going for vacation or eating out, but it has a plan instead of just wandering off. So I'm gonna give you some concrete ways of budgeting, both for business and for personal, and most of these are applicable for both sides of your life. A budget's a living document. I used to think, oh, that budgeting thing is stupid. I tried it once. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because your life changes month to month, week to week sometimes. So let your budget look that way as well. Think about your calendar, what's coming up, so that you can put it in your living document. You have to spend less than you make to get ahead. You can't spend every single dime that you have. You need some to invest. You need some for the rainy day, for those things that we didn't plan for. And keep in mind that it takes 3 to 4 months to even kind of get a budget to work. So you need to have a little grace. It does not happen overnight, and there's none of us that are just hardwired that just say, oh, I got this. You have to learn it very much like the ballerina who gets up on stage. She didn't start there, pirouetting, whatever the terms are, right? She had to do the, whatever, I don't dance. So it's a skill. It's the same as singing, dancing, anything else, right? Give yourself some grace to learn this. Every dollar needs a name. So when people tell me, oh, I have an irregular income, I can't budget. Yeah, that's exactly why you need to budget. You have an irregular income. It's feast or famine. Sell a house, don't sell a house, right? And so you need to plan for that. And so I don't care if you're babysitting on the side or you're selling a house. Whatever dollar comes in, where's it going to go? Have a plan for that. Save for items that you spend irregularly. This is what that budgeting thing we were talking about earlier. These are just a few of them. Annual insurance, sometimes you get a better deal by paying it once a year, but you got to set it aside for yourself, right? Birthdays, holidays, back to school. I don't know how many of you guys have kids back to school. Yes. Holy cow. Write that check to the school and go buy their supplies. And yet, if you have kids in school, it happens every September. It's a big shock, right? Same with Christmas. Christmas is coming, ladies, like a freight train. And so if you don't have a Christmas budget, now would be a good time to start thinking about that, because it's a whole lot easier to set a little aside every paycheck than it is to, oh my gosh, it's Christmas, oh my gosh, it's, last I checked, every year it was December 25th, and yet it's a surprise to us for some reason, right? So car license, your plates, if you have a newer car, those are expensive, and they take your breath away when you get that little card in the mail. Like, oh, I can't believe I don't have money for that. So don't be shocked if you're driving a car, you're going to have to register it.
You're also going to need gas.
And you have to. Thank you, Mary. And how much, right? If
I
you're
need gas right now. I can relate.
That's right. If you are in a couple relationship, you both have to participate. I know some of you said, oh, my husband, he handles it, or I handle it and he doesn't. You both have to do that. I truly believe it helped my marriage when we got on the same page with money. Because I was always the one handling the bills, and then I had that mommy meltdown. I can't do it all anymore. So he took it over, and I was spending. And then he'd be like, how did the credit card get up this big again? I don't know, I bought the kids' clothes, and I did blah, blah, blah. And what I realized that you both have to be a part of the decision and the discussion. You can be the one who pulls the trigger and, does the bill pay and stuff, but you need to be on the same page to discuss it, which is where, as a coach, sometimes I'm doing marriage counseling and some mediation in the process, because we weren't raised the same. Almost 100% of the time we marry somebody different than us in the financial arena. Make sure that you each get some, we call it blow money or pocket money. It's just your little mad money. It might be $5 or $20. It's your money that you get to spend however you want, and you can't tell me, because that takes the wind out of the argument when you get to have a little of your money. And if he thinks it's stupid that you want to get your nails done, then take it out of your pocket money. If you annoyed every time he goes drinking beers with his buddy, take it out of your pocket money. Okay, that's how much you get, and you save it up. Now my husband would save his up and go buy something big, and I had no money. I'm like, that's no fair, I'm eating it with my friends. And he said, well, that's your choice, you know, it's your money, you decide. So when you have an irregular income, and especially as a business owner, I'm not gonna make anybody raise your hands, but I'm guessing I could throw a stick, and some of you have not separated your business accounts from your personal account. And this is super critical. You have to have two accounts, one for business, one for personal. And then if you do that profit first thing, you'll have multiple accounts. You have to budget for your business and create an emergency fund for your business so that you can go to celebration, you can do whatever's coming up. So lay out your budget by the month, but also by the check, and then you can start looking at your calendar. Split up your mortgage and your large payments so that you can take the roller coaster out of your month and put half your mortgage aside twice a month or something. Make sure your minimum payments are paid on time so you're not wasting money on late fees and interest. I would turn off your auto pay bills while you're learning to budget, because it can screw you up by showing up one day before your paycheck. So take that off and be intentional and aware of that. Take care of the four walls, your housing, your food. Those become the priority long before your credit card. And pay your needs before your wants. So shop smart. I'm gonna go fast because this went really fast. Look for bargains, buy on sale, look for discounts, buy things out of season. Don't always buy in bulk. Sometimes bulk does not make sense. It is not the cheapest way. You can save yourself into the poorhouse if you're not careful at Sam's Club, right? Coupons, use apps on the computer. There's a ton of those. Give some away. I really believe in having an open hand so that you can give to others. If your hand is so tightly clenched around every dollar that you make, you have no room to get more. So there's something about your attitude, about being willing to bless others and avoid that attitude of scarcity. I think spending cash as often as possible helps you spend less. You feel it when you spend cash, paper cash. Request a cash discount. Sometimes somebody will give you a discount because they're not paying the 3 to 5% in Visa fees. Using plastic does not register the same in your brain as cash does. You feel it when you drop $100 for that blouse. But when you swipe and go, you don't even remember, and you get the bill at the end of the month and you take your breath away. 15%, 18% more is the average that people will spend just by spending plastic. And it doesn't matter whether it's credit or debit, it's because your brain doesn't realize the amount. Consider using an envelope system for the places where you kind of leak money, eating out, maybe shopping, things like that. So you work all these steps in order. Save $1,000 emergency fund. This isn't a fancy investment, it's just protection between you and the credit card for the little things. And be aware of your numbers and the marketing that's happening to you every day. Sorry, I know you're a marketing queen. Reduce the risk of loss by having the appropriate insurances. And again, these are on the notes, so I'm not going to go over them. But those who sell insurance get it. That's a super important part of your financial plan. There's an opportunity cost. Of everything you buy, you can't invest. Every dollar you spend. So keep aware of that. Eliminate your debt using the debt snowball. That's smallest to largest. We can talk more about that, or follow my Pennywise page. I try to share some of these tips. Consider getting rid of your credit cards or putting them away for a while. Pay off your car loans and your student loans. Nobody told me you can pay off student loans early, so I kept mine for 10 years. Then you save 3 to 6 months of your living expenses so that you have a large cushion between you and life. Now you start investing 15% of your income. You don't have any other debt. You should be able to put 15% aside, right? Live under your income and take advantage of the tax advantage vehicles that certain people can teach you about. In 20 years, things are going to cost double what they do today. And at first that didn't make sense to me, but then I look back at what I paid for my house 24 years ago. It's happening, people. And many of us are taking care of our adult parents, right? And we're that sandwich generation. So think about that. And I watched my mother run out of money at the end of her life, and that was painful for me. This is the Latte Factor. You can Google this. It's David Bach's book. Talks about just $5 a day invested. If you made 8%, which is probably a little high right now, but over 40 years, you could have $500,000. So how's that coffee tasting? You know, or your wine, or your cigarettes, or your nails, whatever. Insert your vice here, right? Take advantage of that early and teach those younger than you to do it now so that you can have the lifestyle you want later. Now is where you save for kids' college after your retirement plan. Did you notice that? It's not before you have retirement saved. Because like the airline stewards tell you, put your mask on first because you're no good to them if you don't have your situation taken care of. Encourage your kids to stay in state and work. God forbid our children should work. 70% of college grads are coming out with student loans, and the average for an undergraduate is $35,000. And they don't realize, we don't realize how much that is and how hard it is to pay off, right?
That seems low to me.
Right?
Mine
that's
are
just an
about
undergraduate.
80 grand. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It depends. Did you go to private school? That's average. You know, that's including the people who have nothing. So you need to get a support and accountability team. Who should you bring? You need professionals, accountant, bookkeeper, maybe a financial coach to hold you accountable, help you learn this skill. How many professions learn how to do something, whether they play football or dance or whatever, without a coach?
Right.
We hire people who know how to do it so that we can do it faster and better, right? Estate planning attorney, almost there.
You're good.
Pay off your mortgage, next. This is last, it's the one bastion of things we might be able to write off, but it's also something going up in value, so don't pay your house off early. I probably could have done that differently. Now you can live and give like no one else. Imagine what you could do if you had no other payments in the world. And sacrifice some today so that you can change your family tree. Whew, so that was fast.
Woo!
So the person you'll be in 5 years is based on the books you read and the people you hang out with. We've got a great community here. What are you doing to help change your future? So again, please, pull out your phone, send that message, get the notes. You can sign up for a free discovery session with me if you're interested in chatting one-on-one about coaching. You don't have to. You can still just ask for the notes. And I would love to kind of keep in touch with you guys via Facebook or my email newsletter. I try to just share really concrete things for people to change their life a little bit at a time. It was my pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Penny. Thank you. Awesome. So make sure that you connect, obviously.